That reprieve will not solve the problems with Tennessee's lethal injection protocol. There's more that needs to be done.
A botched execution last week set off a new string of lawsuits. Death row inmate Tony Carruthers was set to die by lethal injection, but the failure by medical experts to find a vein for more than an hour drove the governor to grant the convicted killer a one-year reprieve. 10 News reporter Lauren Lovett heard from advocates pushing again to delay any executions, and the mother of one victim asking the governor to keep the dates. Lauren?
John, May Martinez says she's been waiting more than 30 years for justice for the woman who killed her daughter. She's worried victims' families will be forced to wait even longer for justice if the governor issues a pause on all executions. It's a plea one mother has been making for years.
Do the right thing and not make the families wait any longer and drag it out.
May Martinez lost her daughter Colleen Slimmer in January 1995. Krista Gale Pike was sentenced to death for her murder and set to be executed in September. But the recent failed lethal injection could affect that.
If nothing changes, this exact same thing could happen. We have an execution scheduled in August. There's nothing to suggest that this exact same thing, these exact same events wouldn't play out.
Lawyers gathered in Nashville asking the governor to pause all executions. They argue until ongoing litigation is resolved, the same risks apply to any state execution.
When our team first reviewed that new protocol, we were shocked to see that TDOC's primary change was to remove clear and specific procedural requirements and protections in favor of amorphous standards. TDOC didn't solve the problems identified in the Stanton report. It concealed them behind vaguer rules and weaker safeguards.
Attorneys say the failed execution paired with other concerns about the drug and doctor involved are driving the request for a blanket pause. A grieving mother is pleading for the exact opposite.
I am begging the governor, if it was his child or his family, he would do the right thing to please put it to rest. Don't let it go on for years more like it has. She's had freedom.
Attorneys say they have been in contact with the governor's office and will continue to press for this pause. I also reached out to Pike's attorney for comment. In a statement, he says they are particularly worried for Pike given her blood conditions, saying, quote, which leads to excessive bleeding, as well as her small veins, which make the insertion of a needle difficult. And Pike's unique condition would cause a bloody froth in her lungs that would amount to drowning. And John, there are 2 other people set to be executed this year in the state, in addition to Krista Gale Pike.
Yeah, that's right, Lauren. In all, the state was set to execute 4 inmates this year. Tony Carruthers paused for a year, Anthony Hines in August, Krista Gale Pike in September, Gary Sutton in December, and each of those convicted killers has spent, on average, roughly 35 years on death row. Victims' families have fought for years to carry out their death sentences. Here's one example.
Even though it's been 30-some years, it's still hard, you know, to deal with it. And to me, I would just wish they did life without parole, so we don't have to sit in here and go through this ever so often. But, you know, back then we wanted the death sentence for them because of what they done. And now it's just, you know, we still have to live it.
Lawyers for Gary Sutton spoke publicly today about his fate. In part, they say last week's failed execution attempt raises profound concerns about the state's ability to properly carry out an execution. The statement goes on to note these concerns are especially significant in cases involving substantial unresolved issues, including claims of innocence and intellectual disability, such as those raised in Gary Sutton's case. We expect to hear more from other supporters of Gary Sutton and critics of the death penalty tomorrow. Right now on WBIR.com, background on all 4 death row inmates originally set for execution this year.